নমস্কার, সুপ্রভাত। সবাইকে সাদর আমন্ত্রণ। We welcome you all to this national seminar on culture and development. We have delegates from various states: Goa, Maharashtra, Punjab, Bihar, Telangana. People have not yet landed. I think they are entering. Madhya Pradesh. So we welcome everybody out here. We really thank you all for being with us for this seminar. We thank Eric Fold, the UNESCO South Asia Director, and Junhi, the Program Head of Culture, Delhi office, for being with us all the time for this Art for Life. And a special thank for Eric, because Eric has visited all these villages and stayed in the villages. So really appreciate Eric. Sri Alapon Bandhopadhyay, the Additional Chief Secretary, who is in charge of 4 major departments, including Home, Industry, MSME, and Hill. Thank you, sir, for being with us, because we know that you are a very, very busy person. Really, really thank you and appreciate your visit. Ahmed, Vivida, a friend, I must say, because, you know, it is not usual that World Bank representative, head of global, he's the global coordinator for heritage and tourism, just coming. I just sent him an email. Immediately he said, I will come. I said, wow, thank you. You know, the first time I met Ahmed at the 3rd World Congress in Istanbul in December 2018, where we were co-key speakers in a panel. And recently we met in China, where we were arguing that it is not only the smart city, it is the rural world which needs development. Both were on the one side. And then while giving the final speech, I will never forget that in my life. From the stage, every time he was, because I mentioned to him that even after so many years, if the world has not alleviated poverty, then we must first agree that there is some fault in us. And then we need to plan a paradigm shift. And Ahmed agreed, and from the stage, he reiterated that, and he was looking at me and he was doing. I was honored. Thank you, Ahmed, for being with us. We really, really appreciate your kind visit. We have a fantastic project going on. It's an initiative by British Academy supported project led by Professor Charlotte, head of IP in Coventry University, UK, and the 5-member team which is here. They have visited the villages, and this is their 2nd visit. Thank you all. Benedetta, Charlotte, June, Diego, and where is the other person? Yes, Harriet. Harriet is sitting there. So really thank you. We thank all the consul generals and the deputy consul generals, the embassy people who are here. Thank you. We thank our partner, WBKVIB, because the soft component was done by us, but the hard component was done by WBKVIB. And they all are here. Mrityunjoy Bandhopadhyay, sir, and his entire team. Thank you very much. I can see Paja Sahib. Mr. Paja has been a pillar in West Bengal government in supporting all the artists, and really appreciate his kind presence too. We thank everybody else, এবং সর্বশেষে we ধন্যবাদ সমস্ত শিল্পীকে। 120 জন শিল্পী এখানে আছেন, 120 artists from different parts. of Bengal. They are here because they are the beneficiaries of this movement, if I may call this as a movement, because this is the first time in India a government has signed a partnership with UNESCO in 2013. And then onwards, in 6 years' time, what we see as achievement is really something that we are proud of. It is not only an economic benefit, but social inclusion, and also bringing pride back to the villages. The marginalized villages are now cultural tourism destinations. So, these are wonderful outcomes that we see, because we really followed a fantastic process. And that process has 3 basic components that we believe in: building capacity, linking directly to the market. There should not be in between. And thirdly, doing a lot of international exchange collaboration. It helps. It brings an additional pride. And overall, with this, we could come to such a day when all the honored guests are here, along with the artist, and I'm sure you will have interactions. So with this little background, I'll just show you a small 3 minutes video, a 2 minutes video, I'm sorry.
High-potential rural artist communities have not developed the business tools to engage markets, resulting in slow death of their unique art forms. Banglanatak.com's Art for Life program, proven in West Bengal, transforms artist communities into thriving micro-enterprises, impacting artist, art form, and district.
In 2013, the Rural Craft Hubs project was launched by the Department of MSME&T, Government of West Bengal, in association with UNESCO, to create 10 rural craft hubs covering 3,000 beneficiaries using Art for Life. The success of the project led to expansion of the initiative to rural craft and cultural hubs involving an additional 12,000 beneficiaries across 15 districts of West Bengal.
26 art form transformations have had 100% success, doubling artists, primarily impacting and empowering women, increasing income 2.5 times, and reducing migrations. Low-income art forms shrunk from 38% to 15%, while high-income grew from nothing to 26%. More than 90% of artists now have a bank account. More than half have a new or renovated house. 77% of these with sanitation and 100% electrified. Almost every artist is formally trained on the art form. 30% are digitally aware, and 38% of the next generation are now proud of and involved in the art form. The village is now a hub for international workshops and collaborations, and 6 art forms have geographical indication status. Tourism is now an integral part of the program. Banglanatak.com has a 100-member core team in place to scale this repeatable program through partnerships in different states.
With this little background, and thanking all the speakers, because they are here from different parts, and the guests, other guests whom I missed out, I now would like to request the 3 speakers in the inaugural session who are here, and Dr. Amit Mitro, our Honorable Minister in charge of Finance, MSME, will be here shortly. So may I request Sri Alapon Bandyopadhyay to kindly have a seat, along with Eric Falt, Director, South Asia, UNESCO, and Ahmed Vivida from World Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, a clap for all of them. May I request Eric Falt to take the stage and say something.
Dear Amitava, Ahmed and Sri Alapan Bonjo Padhyay. Of course, first of all, I want to say that I'm delighted to be back in Calcutta. The association between UNESCO and West Bengal is a very long one. UNESCO has been active in the country for about 70 years, but I can safely say that this is here in West Bengal that we have had more activities perhaps than anywhere else. We are, of course, active in other states. I will go back to that in a moment because it's important to underline it. But over the last 6 years in particular, we're very proud to have initiated this program. It was, as Amitabha mentioned, it began in 2013, recognizing the very large skills and knowledge base which is present in West Bengal in the form of its craft and folk arts. That's when we began a partnership with the government of West Bengal, specifically the Department of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises and Textiles, and of course Bengalnatak.com, without whom this would never have been possible. And that's when the program was initiated, first in 10 districts of West Bengal, covering 3,000 craftspeople. After we saw the very positive results, we all agreed that we needed to scale up the project, and the second phase, called Rural Craft and Cultural Hubs, began in 2016, covering 15 districts. And in this particular phase, folk performing artists have also been included, along with craftspeople. That's one of the main differences as compared to the first phase. And I also want to underline this is probably the first project of this scale undertaken anywhere else in India. So as we approach the end of this second phase, I think I can safely say that we have moved much closer towards achieving our goal of creating sustainable livelihoods for the artists and craftspeople in rural Bengal. Like everything else, this is an enterprise that is a collective effort. Many people need to be involved in it, but we have been able to offer a proud contribution to this effort. To sustain work opportunities will also have a very positive impact on transmission of knowledge and skills associated with these practices, as more people, including youth, and I really want to insist on that and go back to it in a moment, are motivated to learn through this project and continue practicing these skills. This is absolutely a crucial element. West Bengal in general occupies a very special place in the crafts and folk art sector in India, not only due to the large number of artisans and folk artists here, but also in terms of the sheer diversity of these art forms that are practiced here. Amitabha mentioned that I had a chance a few months ago, like some of you, to visit on the ground the communities that are involved in the project, and it's really fascinating to see the difference that it has made in their lives. Our collective efforts have certainly tried to take into account this diversity. It's important to not work in one area. You've seen, you know, or you will learn, for some of you perhaps, that a number of crafts and associated communities, very diverse, are included in the project, like Sitalpati, or mat weaving, Dokra, metal casting, one of my favorites, because I was fascinated to see how extraordinarily complicated the Dokra process is. Kanta, embroidery, but also pottery and much more. You know that the project also includes a number of performing arts. Chow, of course. Chow, I say of course because Chow is one of the 13 elements that is currently inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, but also Baul music, also one of my favorites. Nothing better than to listen to Baul musicians under one of these beautiful trees in the countryside of West Bengal. Jumur, and many other forms. So all that, again, to underscore the diversity of this project, and I'm very happy also that the intangible cultural heritage traditions of hill areas, in particular of Darjeeling, have also been part of the project, and it has helped us also to promote other parts of West Bengal. UNESCO has other projects in Darjeeling, which I'm not going to mention here, but it was particularly important for us to be including Darjeeling as well. So, all in all, I think, again, for those of you who may be discovering this project, this is a project that I can safely say has acted like a pioneer in India. It's a trailblazer in many ways, and I really, really hope that we're going to be able to create similar opportunities in other states and throughout India. Amitava and I were in Rajasthan only, 2-3 days ago? I lost track, but we were able to convince also the authorities of Rajasthan that we should do something similar in Rajasthan. So we're starting this project very soon. I signed a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Tourism, and we look forward to working with Contact Base and banglanatak.com to implement this project there. I think there's huge potential to replicate and adapt. Of course, no one situation is alike in Rajasthan and perhaps in other states as well. So there again, this is just to underline that West Bengal has been a pioneer in this regard. Going back to the UNESCO 2003 Convention for Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage, which is the basis for the work of UNESCO in this area. You probably know that it was first and foremost adopted by the member states of UNESCO. 178 countries adopted it to emphasize the importance of what we call ICH, Intangible Cultural Heritage, for cultural diversity. But also, one of the aspects that was important in this convention is the links to the livelihoods of the communities that practice them. The handicrafts and handloom sector in India alone is one of the largest employment sectors after agriculture. It's only one of the aspects, again, of ICH, but it is estimated in India that more than 10 million handicraft artisans and a large number of folk performing artists are active in the country. And the majority of them are, of course, in the rural areas. And I'm happy that Amitava in his introduction mentioned this particular aspect. Of course, we need to talk about the cities and secure the future of the cities around the world, including in India. That's where most of the population movements are going. But let's not forget the rural areas. And a number of them are, in fact, solely dependent on crafts and folk arts for their daily sustenance. So these sector can very much play an important role in creating income opportunities in rural areas, while also safeguarding and revitalizing local cultural traditions. An important aspect of this project, very important to UNESCO because it is one of our priorities, is that a large number of women are involved in the craft and folk art sectors and play a key role in the transmission of these practices across generations. I was particularly fascinated, I talk about it often when I visited Pingla, this very small village in West Bengal, to see that it actually is women who are benefiting the most from this project, and it's very important for us. It is one of the priorities for UNESCO. It is, as you know, the main thrust of SDG goal number 5, and it is not only a driver for development, but also important because it shapes development paths to include women in these projects. The wide participation of communities and practitioners is also, of course, critical for achieving development goals and for safeguarding our cultural heritage. This is one of the key aspects of the UNESCO Convention, which is that you need to have the consent and ownership in the development process by the communities for the success of any initiative. We hammer that again and again every time we present and discuss ICH, and definitely as part of this project, this was fully taken into account. I think also in conclusion, I want to underline, yes, the participation of youth. It is also critical both for sustaining positive impact of development initiatives, as well as for reviving and renewing of cultural practices. I'm delighted that we'll have an opportunity to hear the voices specifically of young artists from the communities at a session that is focused on them. Amitava and I agreed that it was very important to give them also a chance to come to this podium and speak. I'm very keen to hear how they think the project is moving along, because ultimately, yes, of course, it is for them that we are implementing this project, and I really hope that we will hear from them. But also, in visiting the villages, for me, it was a great pleasure to see, perhaps I can use the example of Dokra this time, to see that a tradition which in some villages was not yet disappearing, but was certainly practiced by older generations, has now been picked up by younger generations, and in that case, perhaps a little more young men. So these are all the elements that I want to mention to, in a way, kickstart the conversation. These are some of the elements that have made this particular project so successful. We at UNESCO are very proud to have been able to implement it over the last 6 years. We're looking forward to the future here in West Bengal and in other parts of the country. And I, of course, want to take this opportunity to thank the government of West Bengal for their collaboration on this important initiative, and for their continuous support to the cultural sector in West Bengal. And of course, I want to recognize the incredible role played by Amitava, founder-director of Bangla Natak, and his entire team. I mean, he's the leader, the mover and shaker, but there are many, many, many people who work with him, and I want to recognize them as well, because they are making the project possible. They are the ones who are implementing the project on the ground. So thank you, Amitava, and all of you. And thank you also, I see we have some of the practitioners of intangible cultural heritage in the background. I really want to thank you for joining in this effort. You are the true bearers of the cultural heritage of India and West Bengal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Absolutely. I mean, these are the main intangible heritage bearers, and who are passing it also to the next generation. I mean, and we have the gurus with us, and you were asking about that, how many, they will be presenting throughout the day in different sessions. They will be coming and sharing their experience. এতক্ষণ যিনি বক্তব্য রাখলেন ইউনেস্কোর সাউথ এশিয়া ডিরেক্টর, দিল্লি অফিসে বসেন, এরিক ফল্ট। অনেকেই তোমরা চেনো, কারণ উনি আমাদের গ্রামগুলোতে অনেকগুলোতেই গেছেন। তাই উনি ওনার বক্তব্যের মধ্যে দিয়ে একটা খুব বড় জিনিস শেষে এসে উনি বললেন যে শিল্পীদেরকে প্রথমেই, এটাই আসল, কারণ ওনারাই কিন্তু এই সংস্কৃতিটাকে পরম্পরায় নিয়ে যাচ্ছে। সেই জন্যে উনি আরেকবার তোমাদের সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ দিলেন। এবারে আমাদের now may I request Sri Alapon Bandyopadhyay to talk.
Sri Amitabh Bhattacharya, our friend, Eric Fate, Director, UNESCO New Delhi Office, Mr. Ahmed, Vivida, Global Coordinator for Cultural Heritage and Sustainable Tourism, World Bank Group, very many distinguished representatives of very many distinguished organizations, authorities, countries, institutions, এবং আমাদের লোকশিল্পীরা। I will choose to be bilingual to the extent practicable, because যাদের জন্য বলা তারা সবাই মিলে যুক্ত হতে পারলে ভালো হয়। The basic target audience is the people whose zest for life, whose livelihood, whose skills, whose needs, whose entitlements we are probably discussing. So whenever possible I will try to speak in Bangla also. যতটা পারা যায় বাংলায় বলাও ভালো। যেটা অমিতাভ ভট্টাচার্য বা banglanatok.com সবচেয়ে ভালো করেছেন, I would say the astounding, defining success and characteristic of the movement that Mr. Amitabh Bhattacharya, banglanatok.com, they have started, and Government of West Bengal has been quite happy to associate itself with this initiative and exercise, that is celebrating our tradition, our real lust for life in particular streams of vocation as immanent in our small towns and villages, in our life processes. This itself is a unique, singular way of looking at life, giving marketing skills, giving exposure, giving training, giving orientation. These were known and these are practiced, but seeing the spectacularity of these life processes and celebrating the intangible heritage enshrined in all these multifarious activities has probably not been witnessed in Bengal, at least. I do not know about other parts of the country, though there have been, of course, attempts in this kind of encapsulation in other parts of the country, I'm sure. But I would really like to congratulate, on behalf of Government of West Bengal, this initiative. I would like to congratulate UNESCO for associating itself with this kind of initiative. Having said this, I would like to add, if I may try to add, one dimension. I'm feeling tempted to add this dimension, to the extent possible, if you could probably accommodate this point of view also. When we celebrate culture, when we celebrate intangible heritage in crafts, hubs, vocations, economic activities, music, performing arts, we sometimes run the risk of anthropologizing them. We kind of make them static parts of an immutable past. যেন একটা অতীতের বড় উপাদানের একটা স্থির অঙ্গ, যেটা আমরা আজকের বর্তমান নাগরিক জীবনের পরিপ্রেক্ষিতে দেখছি। This prism is attractive from the urban, metropolitan, international point of view, but it has its pitfalls, and more often than not seeing the dynamism of history in its everyday imprint of the activities in these crafts and hubs and spectacles and performing arts can lead to some amount of erosion in those activities, in our not being able to link ourselves with the life processes in those lifestyles. To kind of give a narrative, since we are talking about Bengal, in Bengal it all started 5,000 years back. But it went really kind of to a culminating process during the Indo-Roman trade. During the Indo-Roman trade, as very many Greek and Roman seafarers and travelers would note, the Roman traders, with the help of Arab traders, etc., would come in the Indian Ocean circuit to Bengal and get elements of pottery and other crafts from this Bengal side. Chandraketugarh remains a heritage site, therefore, because it celebrates the Indo-Roman trade and cultural exchanges. The physical relics of the stupendous achievements of rural crafts in roughly 1st century AD in Chandraketugarh, or even to a degree, in a much lesser degree, in Tamrolipto, these are being celebrated in history. But when we discuss our rural crafts and hubs, we do not often relate these activities of ours to the precise grids of history to the extent probably we could do. This is a suggestion, Amitabh. In case you think that the heritage initiatives of Chandraketugarh, the heritage initiatives of Daton, or the heritage initiatives seen in the excavation sites of ancient Buddhism sites, etc., and the rural crafts and hubs activities of ours could be seen in a big heritage livelihood grid, then probably many other artists and workers of many other fields could join that integrated field of activity, and our activities could thus get some additional dimensions and scales in the process. During the Pala period, roughly 8th century onwards, due to certain amount of sudden GP progression of population, certain amount of achievement of density of population, etc., the regional polity was formed in Bengal, and the regional crafts, regional iconography of eastern region, Bihar, Bengal and Assam, they got shape. In the museums, in the heritage sites, those are still associated with the Pala period, with the Buddhist stupa, in the Buddhist stupa sites, etc., both in Bihar and Bengal of India side as well as in Bangladesh side. The achievements of our rural artisans remain imprinted. But in the one hand goes the tangible heritage exercises of some organization and institutions. On the one hand goes the livelihood and vocation studies of ours. We probably could connect the two streams, and in all these activities were born many specific social groups, the castes, the vocational groups, the communities born in different layers of history through different activities relating to rural crafts and hubs are in a way even today partly intact. And in our cultural grid studies, if we could actually trace, delineate and discover the birth, growth and evolution of those social groups and communities, their migrations, maybe from East Bengal to West Bengal or from North Bengal to South Bengal, their folklores, poems, their songs and ballads, and thus could get a comprehensive, to the extent possible, encyclopedic prism to put our rural crafts and hubs in those prism, then our activities of today might look a bit more interesting and colorful, though the specifics could be better described by the researchers. When the Mughals came to Bengal, peasantization started in huge manner in 16th and 17th century in eastern Bengal. That was the time when Bengal was getting reunited with Indian oceanic commercial circuit, with the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French and the English coming one after another, and the demand of Europe and the supply of our MSME sector from Bengal got intertwined, giving a huge fillip to the birth and growth of rural crafts and hubs in the soils of Bengal. In the twilight of Mughal period and during the rise of the new global trade in 15th and 16th and 17th centuries, the ancient social groupings, the modern craft building exercises and the vocational colors of the pre-industrial revolution age got melanged to create an extremely complex and colorful scheme, the scheme having imprint in today's crafts and hubs in myriad ways in a very detailed, vivid manner. When Industrial Revolution finally came and our crafts and hubs got much of the life force that they had, the Swadeshi historians, the Swadeshi activities kind of anthropologized, romanticized and gave idyllic pictures of the textiles, the hubs, the crafts that India once had before the Manchesters or before the modern West Industrial Revolution destroyed the basis of those crafts and hubs. Let us not get into the trap of
idyllic romanticization in an anthropological manner by giving the crafts and hubs a kind of ahistorical frame. The wonderful activity that UNESCO, Government of West Bengal, Banglanatok.com together are doing, the zest for life that they are rediscovering, the artisans, vocations, life forces, and marketing skills that they are again getting intertwined could probably get an additional dimension if the social groups, their migrations, and their needs could be particularly and specifically focused in terms of the skills that they have acquired over the thousands of years of history. I'm sure both UNESCO and Amitabh know all these details, but from their presentations, which are wonderful, from their rhetoric, which is just pure scholarly and stupendous, I have sometimes felt that the checkered nuances of history could, and the frontier researches that are being conducted in history, could probably be a little more added, and to that degree, government policies could be more streamlined to give particular trainings in particular areas among some particular social groups in a more historically trained and more socially sensitive way. I honestly thank all the লোকশিল্পীজ যাদের ঐতিহ্যের, যাদের অসাধারণ রূপকথার মতো জীবনের আবাহনে আজকের এই আন্তর্জাতিক আলোচনা চক্র ভারতবর্ষের এবং বাংলার যে ঐতিহ্যের ধারা আপনারা বাংলার কৃৎশিল্পীরা, কারুশিল্পীরা, চারুশিল্পীরা, লোকশিল্পীরা বহন করছেন, সেটা যে আন্তর্জাতিক মহলে এত বড় সমাদর হচ্ছে, সেইটার জন্য বাংলানাটক.com, ইউনেস্কো, এত সমস্ত অভ্যাগতরা আপনাদের সত্যকারের সম্মান জানাতে এসছেন। And I honestly think that all these great cerebral interventions and all these great strategic and policy interventions that all these very many eminent organizations are doing will truly rediscover and replace in the ongoing scheme of life these wonderful activities which come out of a very deep zest for life, which are emulable, which are worthy of such great celebrations and all that. Thank you very much.
ধন্যবাদ শ্রী বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায়। It's such a fantastic way he has put the entire history and an advice for all of us that, you know, if we can, we must keep the history while doing it, while doing the process forward, and I'm sure it will happen. We're extremely honored. Dr. Amit Mitra is here with us. Sir, if you can. Thank you, Honorable Minister Dr. Amit Mitra with us. And now, after two excellent speeches by Eric Fald, UNESCO South Asia Director, and Sri Alapon Bandyopadhyay, Additional Chief Secretary, now we'll request Ahmed Vivida, Global Coordinator for Heritage and Tourism from World Bank. Ahmed.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be among such a group of artisans, art groups, NGOs, academia, state officials, and UNESCO old friends and new friends. And I also feel quite humble to come and speak after such powerful speeches by Mr. Alaban, Bandiava, and Mr. Eric. Quite inspiring speeches, and I think they both speeches put the context very well. What I would like to do today is, because perhaps not all of you are familiar about the World Bank support and cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage, creative industries. So I would like to give a bit of background about what we are doing, why we are doing that, why we are taking such a special approach, and talk about our partnership on supporting the creative industries moving forward, learning from experience like yours. And I'm particularly grateful to Mr. Amitava Bacharaya, for inviting me. Thank you, sir. I heard a lot, as he mentioned today, we are long-time friends, and I heard a lot about the very successful Rural Crafts and Culture Hubs, RCCH project. I heard a lot about the fantastic work and arts produced by all of you in your own villages, so I'm very happy to be here with you today. I think, as Eric mentioned, we in the bank and UNESCO, I guess, work through the Sustainable Development Goals of 2015. So that's our framework of supporting culture and tourism. And we all know that the ambition, the agenda, or the goals set are very ambitious: ending poverty, hunger, child mortality, improving incomes, etc. So such a global economic, environmental, and social conditions won't be easily attained without our partnership and collective effort. I think Eric mentioned, and that's exactly the position of the World Bank also, that culture is both a means and an end to sustainable development. The role of culture in sustainable development spreads across all the three pillars of Sustainable Development Goals: the economic, social, and environmental. Culture ensures the effectiveness of actions in other sectors and policy areas. Culture, leveraged through the cultural and creative industries, contribute to economic empowerment. It provides a way to engage communities in a participatory process and build your ownership, your community ownership, fosters social inclusion. So heritage is people's heritage, is your heritage, and it's your endowment. Intangible cultural heritage is not only a source of community life and pride, but also it's a scarce resource that can be a valuable asset for economic growth, to reduce poverty and achieve other important social inclusion and women empowerment goals. So in the World Bank, we work through this framework, or what we call twin goals, of ending extreme poverty and promoting shared prosperity. So all investments we make, or policy advice, or partnership we engage in, have these two pillars in the heart. Reduce percentage of people living with less than $1.25 a day to no more than 3% globally by 2030. And that's very, very difficult to realize, and I think international communities keep pushing the target year from time to time. And the second objective is to promote shared prosperity, foster income growth of the bottom 40% of the population in every county. And this is very important, because that's where we are here today. That's why I am here today, because we know that the bottom 40% of income groups often live in rural areas or in marginalized urban areas. So how to create jobs to them, formally or informally, how to use their own endowments, like your arts and crafts, which moves from generation to another, as an asset to create jobs. So we have a lot to learn from you today. The Sustainable Tourism and Cultural Heritage Agenda in the bank supports these two pillars because it creates employment, foreign exchange, create revenues to local communities, and support enterprises like yours, whether it's formal or informal. Our approach for supporting intangible cultural heritage within the Sustainable Development Goals has also three levers, if you like. The first one is we recognize that for you, artists, to produce, you need the physical environment to enable you to produce. You need a road to connect you to market, to bring you materials. You need water to produce, electricity, and so on. So we invest in this basic rural and urban infrastructure to enable your productivity and connectivity. And that's done within a sustainable, environmental, and social way. So the type of support or investments made is screened against safeguards. The second one is how to safeguard your intangible cultural heritage. And I think Eric mentioned that, and that's the thin line, as I will talk next about the creative industries. That's the thin line when I see all the beautiful work outside produced by many of your communities. How can you produce more if tourists, if local community, of nearby cities or in the country, they want your products, but how to ensure the authenticity of such products as well? And that's a thin line that's very, very important for all of us. And I think the UNESCO has several conventions in that. And the third one is, okay, so we help with the production, we safeguard with the production to increase, we safeguard it so to safeguard its authenticity, then how to share the experience. And here we adopt the concept of responsible tourism. It's a two-way. First, of course, as Eric mentioned, the consent of the community to share the experience with tourists or with other local community to go and show or perform, that's their decision, and no one can impose anything on them. So that's their part of the game. But the second part is to educate tourists also, that if you go to local communities with such traditional values, respect their values, don't impose your behaviors or sometimes unethical attitude. So moving forward, we are now we have a partnership with UNESCO for many, many years, which was renewed in 2017 to align our partnership along the Sustainable Development Goals and the UNESCO new report of the global report on reshaping cultural policies and the World Bank Twin Goals. So it's renewed in 2017 to support three aspects. The first aspect is like what we are doing today, is to come together and talk together, listen together to state officials, local officials, and develop our global knowledge together with you. The second one is to produce global policy reports. So last year we produced together one on, we call it CURE. If you search it, you will find CURE, which is Culture in Urban Reconstruction and Recovery. How culture can be the fundamental core part during post-conflict or post-disaster reconstruction. And that's easy said, but it's forgotten by many officials and by engineers. When they go to reconstruct the historical part, they move quickly with water, sewage, demolish and reconstruct. And I think what we see now in Iraq is an example of such and Syria quick loss of heritage. But the new thing which we are all excited about, and we started already, is related to your work. We call it the creative industries. And as you know, UNESCO for long has this creative cities network. They have recently published one on creative cities, but we want together to think and to learn from you. So I'm going to present this framework and I'm going to test it on you. So it is validation of this framework with you. So feel free after my presentation to come and tell me, this is you got it right, this is you got it absolutely wrong. So what we are saying is, for your work, whether it's intangible cultural heritage or part of a broader creative industries, we need a vision. And I think that's where the states, NGOs like Bengal Attack, can help you. What's the vision? Where we want to go? What our challenges and how to resolve the issues. Without a vision, any road can take you. And the vision now, what we are promoting is to improve the entire ecosystem. It's not only do a road or do water or help give training or work with a few group of women. It needs to be and to look at the entire ecosystem of production and sharing and the three principles I mentioned earlier. And the programs, and I think that's what we often do without recognizing them, is the first one is the institutions and the regulations. How we enable you with institutions and regulations to be conducive to your productivity. The second one is the urban space and connectivity. As I mentioned, investing in infrastructure, investing in connectivity, have a plan. And the third one, which is most important, investing on people, skills, innovation, and transmission of knowledge from one generation to another. And the last one is enterprises. So access to market, access to finance, access to training, what services you need to market your product and share. And then that translated on the right into a number of actions that in an integrated way, all of them needs to be in place. For example, incubations. And incubations are the old idea of taking people to a place. It's an old one. Incubation can be at your own house, at your own place of production. Somebody to come and nurse the learning from masters to other young generation. Access to finance, microcredit, tax incentives, and finally, the whole physical dimension of productivity. So feel free to comment on that during the break. I'd like really to hear from you. And to conclude, I want to say a few words about your interesting work and the Art for Life methodology. It's really, I read a lot about it, and I'm here. I'm going to stay longer to go and see by myself. But it's quite impressive, the work you are doing with more than 15,000 practitioners of traditional crafts and folk arts across 15 districts in West Bengal is really, we consider it as one of the best practice to learn from. Your methodology of Art of Life is not only revives and revitalizes the heritage, the traditional knowledge and skills of folk artists and crafts people in rural Bengal. That all enhances your livelihood opportunities and thus leading to your socioeconomic development and skills development. So it's pretty much aligned with the framework which I just presented. I think we all agree that to preserve our history, we need to understand such successful practices like what you are doing. Drawing in this collective wisdom will help us build better and smarter space and safeguard our precious cultural heritage. So thank you very much. It's quite an honor for me to be among all of you, and I'm here to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. That was very nice to share the global vision and the World Bank's experience, and how the culture can take a route forward in the development of the future. And if World Bank thinks this is a good example, this is really an honor for all of us. ধন্যবাদ আহমেদকে। এরপরেই আমরা অনুরোধ করব অনারেবল মিনিস্টার ইন চার্জ ডক্টর অমিত মিত্র স্যার।
নমস্কার। যারা আমাদের আর্টিজানস এসছেন, আর্টিস্টরা এসছেন, তাদের আগে ধন্যবাদ দিতে চাই। Give them a big hand. Those who have come, those are the real people on the grassroots level. I'm delighted that we have with us Mr. Eric Falt. You've already spoken, sir. I will get to know what you said. Director, UNESCO, New Delhi office. You're the mover and shaker of this program. It is Government of West Bengal's MSME department which collaborates with you. Of course, Mr. Ahmed Ewadi, Global Coordinator for the Cultural Heritage and Sustainable Tourism, a World Bank Group. I am very happy you are here, sir, because so far World Bank is not engaged in this. This gives us an opportunity to see whether World Bank would also get involved. And I will request the additional Chief Secretary, one of our senior most officials, Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay, who's here, who has spoken also, to engage with you to see if we can, with UNESCO, we can get World Bank to engage in this. And of course, Amitabh Babu, who's dedicated his life to this. I know he's IIT Kharagpur, could have taken many corporate jobs, left all that, and went into this grassroots work, who works with UNESCO, with us, and I'm delighted that you're here. So Alapan Babu, we have to now get the World Bank's engagement on this, because I found his presentation very interesting in the broader framework of doing this. Now we have to get down to the knuckles and see how we can really engage with you. So I'm very happy that you're here. আমি শুনে খুশি হলাম যে আমাদের বিভিন্ন রাজ্য থেকে এখানে এসেছেন। From different states, we have Goa, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Telangana. May I request the officers to please stand up so that you get recognized by your presence. Those who have come from other states, please give us an opportunity to give you a hand. Please give them a hand. I'm very happy that Bengal has attracted you here to collaborate together state to state. Thank you very much indeed. আমি অত্যন্ত আনন্দিত যে আমাদের অফিসার, সিনিয়র অফিসাররা এখানে আছেন। আমাদের চেম্বার্স অফ কমার্সেরও কয়েকজনকে দেখছি সিনিয়র্স। অফকোর্স your excellencies are here. I am delighted that our Consulate General from Italy, I can see, you're a nation of many art forms, and I'm very happy that you're here. Any other Consulate Generals are here? Or from Nepal, of course. Thank you very much, and we'd like to collaborate with you in whatever manner possible. हमरा खुशी हब हम बहुत खुश होंगे कि आपके साथ हम कोई तरह एक साथ काम करें तो. So of course we work with Italy a lot. I believe from Coventry University we have professors here. May I know who they are? Yeah, wonderful. So you've come all the way. Intellectual property, is that what you work on? As well as the software development in this area. But IP is very important. If you don't have IP, then it gets all stolen and other people reproduce it. I still recall many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, my first engagement with GI, geographical indication, with none other than Dr. Mashelkar. And you know what it was on? Turmeric. Somebody had taken turmeric, হলুদ আমাদের কাছ থেকে নিয়ে সেখানে একটা পেস্ট বানাচ্ছে আমেরিকায়। আরে আমাদের জিনিস আমরা তৈরি করেছি হাজার হাজার বছরে। How can you just do that? And I think Dr. Mashelkar and I in Delhi worked together, and finally we got the relevant protection for turmeric. Here I may mention, of course, from the Chambers of Commerce, I see Ms. Moushami Ghosh here. You are part of the Bengal Global Business Summit and MSME conclave, so we like to engage the chambers of commerce as well. If there are any other chambers of commerce present here, we'd like to recognize them. Thank you. I believe from Milano we have somebody. There you are. Both of you are from Milano? That's wonderful. So, center of design in the world, at the end of the day, is Milano. I don't want to injure the French pride here, because they have equally competitive process. But I have had the occasion of going to Paris and looking at the high-end association of 31 design entities, and I've had the same pleasure. And from the university, I think you could look at one of the universities in Italy. You're from? Wonderful. There you are from the university. So I didn't know that, but I felt that should be an engagement that will be very useful. At one time, Bocconi was engaged. You're from Bocconi. There you are. You were. So Bocconi was engaged with this in my last life. I helped the director of Vice Chancellor to come and work with India at that time. So I'm very happy that such a wonderful presence of such a wide-ranging entities that you've got together, Amitabh Babu. That's wonderful. প্রথমেই আমি বলতে চাই যে ইউনেস্কোর সঙ্গে what we have engaged with UNESCO is a big framework is art of life. This is very important. শুধু টাকা রোজগার করা নয়. Not just earn money. Not just make profit. But see how a whole community can come up in an equitarian manner, with some balance in their process of growth. That's a concept that I think is unique. That it's not that you encourage only individual entrepreneurs. Yes, today Alapan Babu's department, our additional chief secretary's department, MSME, of which I happen to be also the minister in charge, we have now 450 clusters. What are the number of clusters? The director is here. Kannan Chab, how many clusters do we have? 508 clusters. So I understated it. So 508 clusters we already have in West Bengal. 508 cluster আছে. But she cluster are specific to certain trades. So you have the textile clusters, for example. Approximately 100 to 600 artisans are part of one cluster. And you have provided common facility centers. In some of them, you have 62 common facilities, 63 common facility centers. Now, those are focused towards a particular trade and how to increase entrepreneurship. Here you have a program which is broader, where you bring up the whole community, which is a very unique idea indeed, that government of West Bengal in soft skill provider of UNESCO has done. UNESCO has provided us all the soft skills. For example, UNESCO ki diyeche amader skill development, capacity building, market promotion, but very simple things, digital divide bridging through this community. Why? They have learned now to use computers. Computer ব্যবহার করার সম্ভাবনা তাদের শেখানো হয়েছে. Send mails, simple. I still remember, which I said before, many years ago, I went to a state with the guy who started NASCOM. He's passed away now. Devang Mehta, and there was a lady sitting there making a fabric. And he said, this is a unique fabric which can convert into ties. It's meant for ties, but she doesn't know what a tie is. And the internet had just started. So he said, I'm going to put this lady on the platform on internet, and let's help her to design a tie. I learned 3-4 years later that she had become a celebrity in the world, because her ties were going all over, only because of the internet connection in those days. So you have taught the Rural Craft and Cultural Hub how to use computers. Spoken English. অল্প কিছু ইংরেজি বলতে পারলে সুবিধা হয়. Just transactional English, where a buyer comes, some broken English, some little bit of English is of help. British Council helps in all that. So therefore, production planning. Small entrepreneur doesn't know how to plan their production. What is the production line? What is the supply chain? They don't know. They go more by intuition. Now you make it more scientific. So they can do production planning. Product costing. Now, end of the day, I produce a product, it really costs me 100 rupees, but I end up selling it for 90 rupees. Doesn't work. So if you do product costing effectively, you will make some profit which then plows back into your livelihood. Quality monitoring. By the way, about 4 years ago, I was not then MSME minister, but it so happened the Honorable Chief Minister asked me that why don't we look at Tontuj, which produces hand-woven material. Now, let's see what we can do on that with regard to disaster management. When we have a disaster, we need to draw, as the officials will know, we take huge number of saris, huge number of this, huge number of that, to provide to those who have been marooned. Now, I suggested that in order for them to improve, let us introduce quality control mechanism. Because then, you know, we as MLAs, elected entities, we complain that the sari we got is not good enough. So can we introduce quality control? You'll be happy to know today, the Department of Disaster Management has very strict quality control. I said, you have the tailor's option of quality control. I sat with them and tried to explain whatever little I knew. And therefore, immediately, the quality of the product improved. You know what happened to Tontuj, this government corporation? When we came to office, it was running at 12 crore loss. 12 crore is about $2 million loss. Today, they are running at an operating profit of 14 crores, which would be about $2 million plus operating profit. So they wiped out the loss and they're running at a profit. So that's the standardized model. But here this afternoon, we are here to talk about a new model which is different from that and which requires a very different outlook. Now today you have 25,000 artisans that are engaged in this. Am I right? Yes. So you started with 3,000. Yes. Now you have 25,000 artisans engaged in this. And I would like to set a target of 1 lakh artisans in the future. That should be our immediate vision. That 1 lakh artisans must be engaged in a time frame. এখন 25,000 আর্টিজানস এর মধ্যে কাজ করছে আমি টার্গেট সেট করে দিলাম যে 1 লক্ষ আর্টিজান এই প্রোগ্রামের মধ্যে আসতে হবে The other interesting thing I find is that average income of families was only 500 rupees 500 টাকা ইনকাম ছিল এই প্রোগ্রাম শুরু হওয়ার আগে before this program started 500 rupees average now it has gone to 7,500 rupees average and the range is between 5,000 to 12,000 rupees. Am I right? Now look at that. 500 টাকা যার রোজগার ছিল অ্যাভারেজে সে 7,500 পাচ্ছে কগুণ হলো 15 গুণ practically 15 times increase in their earnings. And then now you have a band of 5,000 to 12,000 rupees, huge increase in their livelihood. The change in their life, which is amazing indeed. So I'm also very happy that Miss Junhee Han is here, Section Chief and Program Specialist for Culture, UNESCO. Now it will be useful for you to know that it's not only the cultural upliftment that you see, but unless the financials go hand in hand with cultural, it won't happen. It will not be sustainable. So sustainability in its broader framework of environmental sustainability, community sustainability, but also financial sustainability. So it is very interesting that you have provided us the software, sir, from UNESCO, and Department of Small and Medium Enterprises has provided the hardware. So we have spent over these years approximately 35 crores. And what has the turnover gone to per year? It's gone to over 100 crores. Ours is a one-time spend. So if you look at that, it's a continuous process, 100 crores annually, we are now seeing a turnover. So in the last 2016 to now, if let us say you did 50 crores, 80 crores, 100, 200-300 crores turnover has gone up to in the last 3 years with only a 34 crore investment. So that's about 6-7 times return. Am I right? Yes. Are these numbers correct? So what we are looking at is empowerment through a multiple process. Now, let me submit to you what are the one other achievement of this is, out of the 10 products, 10টা product এতে ছিল, যেগুলো নেওয়া হয়েছিল, 10 products, ডোকরা, পটচিত্র, মাদুর, wooden masks, terracotta, chow masks, 6 of these out of the 10 have got geographical indication. That's huge success. 6 out of 10 have got geographical indication successfully, certified by Government of India, which is a part of the TRIPS agreement of the WTO. So this is remarkable that we started with nothing. Now out of 10, 6 have got geographical indication. Now, the state has got so far 20 or 21 products in which we have geographical indication. But amazing is, out of the 10 you started with, you managed to get 6. I would like to propose here that let's get all 10 geographical indication. That should be our target. So let us take up the other 4 and go to their history and their background, and let us apply for geographical indication. Alapan Babu may take this up with your colleagues to see how all 10, assuming that they are heritage items, we do get geographical indication. Let me turn now to the evolution from purely a rural craft hub to a rural craft and culture hub. This is also an evolution. Didn't happen before. It was only a rural hub. Then you decided that now culture needs to be integrated with the rural hub. On the rejuvenation, what was the reality? Master craftsmen's missing. So this program has pushed for trained master craftsmen. Once you have master craftsmen, you have incubation, automatic. Number 2, low value products was the order of the day. Yes, you produce something of low value. How to lift that to high value? That's what this program has done. 3, poor wages. Khub kom paisha maine peto tara. Wage has lifted. Lack of market knowledge. Again, this program is focused on market connectivity. Marketable products were the cause of decay of the heritage products of rural Bengal. Heritage product was decaying. Muslin. Alapan Babu, your department has resuscitated muslin. Muslin was dead. That's what Cleopatra wore, which could pass through a ring. You're from Egypt, sir, from your great heritage. Our muslin was taken, and Cleopatra would use muslin, which was so beautiful it could pass through a ring. Now that great heritage died. Our government has been successful in bringing that heritage back. And last count, there were 5,000 artisans who were only doing muslin. Now, when you're at the airport or you go to Park Street, please go into the Bishwa Bangla store and you will find muslin. and take a touch and feel of it. That has been resuscitated. So, therefore, this is the decaying products. That's the point I was making. Rural Bengal, it has undergone a change. And the glory of Bengal has come back. And I'm sure all the states present have their own special corners where they are the best. So this is something that needs to be spread. And Bengal is suggesting to you that it is possible to do with this kind of a partnership. Another interesting point is round the year. Usually what happens with these crafts is it's made at one time and that's it. So 2 months, 3 months, rest of the time, people don't have work. So one thing this program has done, sustainable livelihood round the year. Shara bochor kaj korar sambhavona. And of course, bringing back those who had migrated. So out-migration from rural area to urban area, we have to check it creatively and sustainably. This program has stopped some amount of migration. Kenona tara gramei kaj pacche, gramei value pacche, 500 টাকার জায়গায় 750 টাকা রোজগার করতে পারছে। শুধু তারা শহরে গিয়ে যাবে না, গ্রামের ঐতিহ্যকে সামনে এনে রাখবে। It's a huge thing that the heritage of the village and migration process can be arrested. And to them, living in a community as against living in a little place in the middle of a city is a huge difference. Within a community, within their own ecosystem, as against suddenly being transplanted into a lane in Kolkata, isn't so delightful. So if we can protect them, that community, let them be in that community, earn in that community, it's very, very important. And what does that bring you? Tourism. I am very happy to learn that you had 120,000 tourists, day tourists, visit these centers. Am I right? Correct. 1 lakh, 1,20,000 tourists আপনাদের গ্রামে গ্রামে গেছে দিনের বেলার জন্য। And 1,500 has had homestay tourists. That's the next frontier. We have to have international tourists through UNESCO's networks, through World Bank's network, to come and visit them. Therefore, if you look at the financials, we are looking at last 3 years, at least 250 to 300 crores of value generated. Only for 34 crores of expenditure in all from the government. That's a very good return indeed. 2, new products have come back into life, which had died. 3, the GIs, out of 10, 6 have received GIs. সেই তো আজকে নতুন নতুন জিনিস যাদের খুঁজে পাওয়া যেত না যে জিনিসটা, আজ আপনারা তাদের ফিরিয়ে এনেছেন যারা বসে আছেন। I saw when I was just walking in the kind of craft that was there. Let me give you finally an example. Let me see. I'm told UNWTO is also engaged in this project. So UNESCO is the lead. So that is very, very interesting to me. 150 fairs, 150টা এক্সিবিশনে আপনারা গেছেন. You have been to 150 fairs within India. In each fair, your mind has opened. I'm not talking about the money. Yes, you've made money. I know that in the Delhi fair we do, people have nothing left. It's all sold. But what is great for me is, when you go to Andhra, and there's a fair in Hyderabad, your new ideas spring up. বাউলরা ওখানে গেলে তারা নতুন নতুন জিনিস শেখে, জগৎটা খুলে যায়, their eyes open, the sky becomes the limit. On this I may say that I had the opportunity of taking from tourism a group to London for the international exhibition in London. Now, from the state, Pottochitra was there, which I think Amitav from UNESCO's side was organized. You won't believe the rush of people there. The lady was sitting and spinning the yarn, the story, of a Pottochitra, and people just stood affixed. It was not just the product, but what was in the product. I saw that with my own eyes. There was a person who had brought a shark, a conch shell. He was building castles inside the conch shell. You can't imagine. All kinds of stuff inside the conch shell with fine needle. So at the end, I saw that his shark was gone, the conch shell was gone. So I told him, what did you sell it for? He said, 35,000 rupees. There's a market for it. So my submission is this 150 fairs that they have been to internally and to 15 international fairs that they've been to, supported by the department. This is where the mind-opening happens. আপনাদের পরিপ্রেক্ষটাই খুলে যায়, বেড়ে যায়। Sky becomes আকাশী হয়ে যায় আপনাদের ঘোরাফেরার জায়গা। সেই সীমিত থেকে বিশাল আকাশ আপনাদের সামনে এসে যায়। So from the limited to the sky. So my submission is, one, to the UNESCO, maybe we should work together to see if we can enlarge this program with clear entrepreneurial focus, along with, of course, the sustainability. Maybe Alapan Babu can look at that, provided both the government and UNESCO is happy with that. My second submission is, World Bank can become a part of this, which it has not been so far. The World Bank has not been part of this. Now that you're here, with your Egyptian background, where art and craft flourishes, I've been to your country, maybe there's some DNA in you, aside from the World Bank, that may lead us towards engaging with you. So, আমি বাধিত যে আমাকে আপনারা ডেকেছেন। আজকে আমি শুনে খুবই খুশি হলাম। টার্গেট সেট করলাম আমাদের 1 লক্ষ আর্টিসান এই প্রোগ্রামের মধ্যে আমাদের নিয়ে যেতে হবে। We must take this to 1 lakh, but in a sustainable manner, not for the heck of it. You have grown from 3,000 to, what is the number now? 25,000. So I'm not asking for an unusual, from 25,000 we need to go to 1 lakh now. 3,000, 25,000 is how many times? 8 times. I'm only asking for 4 times. But I know that as you try to climb, it becomes harder. But I would submit to you, and we must take the revenues from current little more than 100 crores a year. We should target a revenue of 200 crores within the next 2 years. So the income also generation becomes an important thing. And I'm happy you're here for intellectual property. We must protect this intellectual property. I would urge all of you to go to the Bishwa Bangla shops. Also Tantuj is a shop on Park Street which has only one kind of sari. Can you imagine? We have resuscitated that sari making. Eta apnar konta ache otate? Baluchari. How many craftsmen we have come in Baluchari? I think a good number. Something. Does anybody know how many new craftsmen has come into Baluchari? I think something like 2,000. But 150 totally new craftsmen. And Baluchari, you've got a beautiful shop there. And it is sold out. You have to go to the shop to understand what Baluchari shari means. Amazing. So write the full rate, Dokra. I didn't know. This is another dimension. Women are now working on Dokra. They never did before. Women empowerment. Women entrepreneurship is developing through this program. So it is my earnest request that we work together in partnership and take this forward. By the way, in carpets, made from a grass, Shobong হচ্ছে
সবাই আর মাদুর আর আরেকটা হচ্ছে ধোকরা দক্ষিণ দিনাজপুর।
So there you are. These are new products that never existed. I was so surprised to find there is a rush of buyers for that kind, made of grass. Totally novel. So we have to, Mamata Banerjee, our Chief Minister, is particularly interested in this kind of thing. She has given a stipend to our folk arts. কত টাকা আমরা দিয়েছি? About again? 1,000 rupees per month we have given to our folk artists so that they get a minimum subsistence. Plus 2 rupees kg rice, of course, they get. I must end by saying, বাউল আমি দেখতে পাচ্ছি আমাদের এখানে কিছু বাউলরা আছেন, একটু দাঁড়ান, যারা বাউলরা আছেন একটু দাঁড়ান, একটু give them a hand. These are the great folk songs. It's absolutely amazing. And I must tell you that in the London exhibition, I don't know আপনাদের মধ্যে কেউ ছিল কিনা, London exhibition, I said, let us create a bang that Bengal, here is Bengal from India. And we created a procession of those carrying Potochitro, those carrying different, you know what the procession, who had led the procession? The bowls. And once they started singing and moving, all other stalls stopped. And whole concentration was the folk art that Bengal had brought, not just the hand art. So my submission to you is, this is a huge, huge, novel, amazing program which uplifts people in their own communities rather than migrating out, creating new value, new products, new vistas, and new dreams they never dreamt before. তারা কোনোদিন স্বপ্ন দেখেনি, আজ তারা স্বপ্ন দেখছে যে সারা পৃথিবীতে all over the world তাদের প্রোডাক্ট ছড়িয়ে যাবে। বাঙালিদের একটা কনফারেন্স হয় in USA you have a Bengali conference every year annually. 8,000 to 10,000 Bengalis collect. This time we took 1,500 square feet, never taken before, and in that stall we had 4 artisans making the products. It was a sold out event. And I also told my colleagues, get 2-3 young boys and girls who are Bengali, don't know what Bengali is, born and brought up in the United States, train them for a few days and let them person those stalls. And it was remarkable that 8,000 to 10,000 Bengalis, and not one single physical product was left. I wish we had taken much larger quantum because the demand was excessive. But the message went out that Bengal is resuscitating its heritage, its art in a sustainable manner. So I would say, join us, I most humbly say, join us in this great experience. And I'm thankful very much to Amitabh Babu who telephoned me, UNESCO, the big boss is here from Delhi, from the World Bank, from Global Matrix, from all over the world. I see people and His Excellencies who always help us, and the states, universities. Such a confluence of ideas this morning. I am delighted and touched by this event. Thank you for asking me to be here.
ধন্যবাদ ডক্টর অমিত মিত্রকে, অসাধারণ একটি, what a fantastic speech. I'm sure, he really summarized the entire thing and shown us a vision forward. And with this, we come to the end of the first, the keynote and the inaugural session. We thank Eric, Ahmed, Dr. Mitro, and Alapan Bandyopadhyay. ধন্যবাদ আপনাদের সবাইকে।